There is a part of you that you have spent your entire life trying not to see. It hides beneath your accomplishments, behind your confidence, inside every smile that feels just a little too practiced. It is the part of you that whispers when you fail, "I told you so." It's the part that turns every small mistake into proof that you are unworthy. It's the part that makes you apologize for existing, even when you've done nothing wrong. That part, the one you keep running from, burying beneath goals, validation, distractions, it is a part of you that hates yourself. And until you face it, it will run your life. You can change your job, your relationships, your environment, your body, your habits, but until you face that quiet inner saboteur, you are just rearranging the furniture in a burning house. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this is the truth most people never dare to face. The enemy isn't out there, it's in here. It's the voice that tells you you're not ready, not smart enough, not attractive enough, not lovable enough. The one that speaks with your tone, uses your logic, and hides behind your own thoughts. You think it's you, but it isn't. It's your shadow, the part of you that learned long ago that love was conditional, that worth had to be earned, that safety came from control, that belonging meant betrayal of self. That's the part running your life right now. It's the part that keeps you in toxic relationships because it's addicted to being needed. It's the part that sabotages opportunities because it's afraid of success revealing its fraudulence. It's the part that turns rest into guilt, silence into shame, vulnerability into weakness. You think you are afraid of failure, but you're not. You're afraid of exposure, because if you succeed, the world will see you. And once you're seen, that old self-hating voice will whisper, "Now they'll know you're not enough." So you keep yourself small, safe, manageable, invisibly. You mistake survival for peace and comfort for control. But the truth is, the part of you that hates yourself is still trying to protect you. It learned its job early, maybe when you were a child who tried to speak truth in a family that couldn't handle it. Maybe when you were made to feel that love was something you earned by pleasing others. Maybe when your mistakes were treated not as moments of growth, but as proof of your unworthiness. So that part of you made a vow. Never again. Never again will I be too loud, too honest, too strange, too real. Never again will I risk being rejected for who I truly am. And from that moment, you became divided. One half of you reached for light to build, to create, to love. The other half pulled you back to hide, to sabotage, to shrink. You've been at war with yourself ever since. You call it procrastination, anxiety, perfectionism, imposter syndrome. But what it really is self-hate disguised as discipline. It's the belief that you must punish yourself to become worthy of freedom. But here's the paradox. You cannot punish yourself into wholeness. You cannot shame yourself into power. You cannot hate yourself into healing. You can only love yourself into awareness. Because love, real, unconditional love, is the only force that dissolves illusion. And the part of you that hates yourself, it is an illusion, a shadow, a phantom built from all the moments you were unseen, unheard, and unvalued. It's not evil. It's wounded. It's the ghost of the child you once were, still trying to keep you safe in ways that no longer serve you. And until you face it, it will keep doing its job. It will make you procrastinate when you're closest to breakthrough. It will make you sabotage the relationships that are actually healthy. It will make you feel undeserving of peace. It will make you confuse attention for love and chaos for passion, because it doesn't know better. It's stuck in time, frozen at the age you were, when you learned that being yourself was dangerous. So you perform, you overachieve, you people please. You hide behind logic or intellect or work ethic or charm, anything to prove that you're good enough. But here's the truth that breaks the illusion. You don't need to be better to be free. You need to be whole. And wholeness doesn't come from erasing the parts of you that are ugly. It comes from integrating them. Jung called it Shadow integration, the process of confronting the repressed parts of the psyche, not to destroy them, but to reclaim their power. Because what you hate in yourself is often what's most powerful in you. Your insecurity is the shadow of your sensitivity. Your rage is the shadow of your boundaries. Your jealousy is the shadow of your desire. Your fear is the shadow of your intuition. Everything you despise in yourself hides something sacred beneath it. You just have to stop running long enough to see it. You must go into the places within you that you've been avoiding. The inner dungeon where you keep your shame, your grief, your unexpressed rage, your unlived potential. You must descend into yourself not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask that part of you, why are you afraid? What are you protecting me from? What do you need? And then listen, because when you listen without trying to fix, that part of you will begin to trust you again. It will start to lay down its armor. It will show you its wounds. And that's when the healing begins, not when you silence the voice, but when you understand its language. That voice that tells you you're not enough, it's not your enemy. It's your messenger. It's the pain in your psyche asking to be seen. It's the call from your unconscious saying, I'm tired of pretending. The only way to silence it is not to fight it, but to love it, to hold it, to look at it with the eyes of the parent you always needed, the friend you always deserved, the truth you always avoided. This is what Jung meant by the gold in the shadow. The light is not found in denial. It is found in the darkness you've been taught to fear. Because the more you run from the parts of you that feel unworthy, the more power they gain over you. Every time you try to suppress your pain, it finds another way to express itself through anger, addiction, perfectionism, relationships that mirror your wounds. You are not haunted because you are broken. You are haunted because you are divided. Your conscious self says, I want peace. Your shadow whispers, you don't deserve it. Your conscious self says, I want love. Your shadow says, love will destroy you. And so you live half a life constantly at war with your own mind, mistaking internal conflict for fate. But what if you stopped fighting? What if you sat with the voice that hates you not to argue, but to understand? What if you said, I know you're trying to protect me, but I don't need protecting anymore. I'm not that child anymore. I can handle life now. That is the moment everything changes, because the part of you that hates yourself isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to keep you safe. It just doesn't know how to stop. You must teach it. You must show that inner part what safety actually feels like through boundaries, through truth, through stillness, through love that doesn't require you to earn it. You must let that part of you grieve. Grieve for the years it spent in defense, for the childhood it lost, for the freedom it never knew it had. Grief is the baptism of transformation, because before you can become who you truly are, you must mourn who you pretended to be. You must lay to rest the version of you built on survival, the one who smiled through fear, who apologized for their needs, who confused being good with being silent. And from those ashes, the real you will rise, not polished, not perfect, but whole. And in that wholeness, you will find something that no achievement, no validation, no love from others could ever give you: peace. Because peace is not found by fixing yourself. It's found by remembering that you were never broken. The part of you that hates yourself has been waiting for your courage, for your compassion, for your consciousness. And when you finally meet it face to face, when you hold its shaking hands and say, it's okay, I see you now, it will stop running your life, because it will no longer need to. You will have become the one it was trying to protect you from losing all along, your true self. And when you finally meet that part of yourself, the part you've exiled, feared, buried, something almost mystical begins to happen. The walls you've built inside start to crumble. The noise inside your head, that constant hum of self-criticism, begins to quiet. And for the first time, you start to feel what peace really is, not the absence of pain, but the absence of resistance to it. You realize that you've spent years confusing self-control with self-awareness. You thought mastering yourself meant silencing your pain, managing your impulses, forcing discipline on your emotions. But mastery is not suppression, it's integration. It's the moment you stop trying to become someone else and start remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Because that's what the self-hating voice really is, the echo of every moment you learned that authenticity was unsafe, every time your laughter was too loud, every time your truth was too inconvenient, every time your love was too much, or your silence was misread. You adapted. You learned to cut pieces of yourself away one by one until all that remained was what the world found acceptable. And then you wondered why you felt empty. You wondered why no amount of success could fill you, why no relationship ever felt like home, why every victory tasted like dust in your mouth. It's because you've been living from your mask, not your essence. And the mask is insatiable. It always wants more validation, more recognition, more control, but it will never be satisfied because the mask feeds on illusion, and illusions can't be fed. They must be faced. You can't heal what you refuse to look at. You can't transform what you keep pretending isn't there. You can't become whole by polishing half of yourself and disowning the rest. The part of you that hates yourself doesn't need to be destroyed. It needs to be understood. Because beneath its cruelty is confusion. Beneath its judgment is grief. Beneath its control is fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of abandonment. Fear of insignificance. That fear was once necessary. It kept you safe. But now it keeps you small. It stops you from risking your truth. It stops you from loving fully. It stops you from seeing that you are already enough. And here's the paradox. When you finally stop running from your self-hatred, it stops hating you. Because hatred cannot survive contact with truth. When you bring light into darkness, the darkness doesn't fight. It disappears. The same is true within you. The shadow cannot harm you once you turn to face it. It only has power when it's behind you, whispering through shame. But when you face it, when you look directly into its eyes, you see something unexpected. It looks like you. You recognize its voice as your own, wounded and weary, waiting for forgiveness. And forgiveness, real, radical forgiveness, is not about excusing the pain. It's about ending the war. It's about saying, I am no longer my own enemy. That is where self-love begins, not in affirmations, not in self-care routines, but in the willingness to stand naked before your own imperfection and say, I still choose me. Because every act of self-rejection is a prayer to a false god, the god of perfection. You've been worshiping that god for years. You've been offering your time, your joy, your peace to the altar of, I'll be enough when I lose the weight, when I find love, when I make more money, when I stop making mistakes. But that when never comes. Because self-acceptance is not a destination, it's a decision. It's the decision to stop abandoning yourself every time you feel unworthy. It's the decision to hold yourself when you fail instead of punishing yourself for it. It's the decision to speak kindly to the parts of you that have only ever heard criticism. Because the truth is, no one has judged you more harshly than you have. And that self-judgment has become your religion, one that demands endless sacrifice but never offers salvation. But you can't serve two masters. You can't serve truth and shame at the same time. One will have to die. And when shame dies, so does fear. Fear cannot survive in a mind that has made peace with itself. Fear feeds on self-doubt, on hidden guilt, on the illusion that you are powerless. But when you look within and see your own depth, when you see that the same mind that created your suffering also holds the power to end it, fear dissolves. Because fear is just faith in the wrong direction. You've been worshiping the possibility of failure instead of the possibility of freedom. And that shift from fear to faith, from shame to understanding, from punishment to love, is the beginning of transformation. But make no mistake, transformation is not gentle. It will burn you, because before you can rise, everything false in you must die. The false pride, the false humility, the false peace that comes from pleasing others while betraying yourself. You will feel like you are falling apart, but you're not. You're falling into yourself. And when the pieces settle, when the noise subsides, you'll feel something you haven't felt in years' presence. Not performance, not pretending, presence. You'll feel what it means to be, not to achieve, not to earn, not to prove, to simply exist fully, unapologetically, authentically. And in that space, you'll realize that the voice that once ruled you has lost its authority. It still speaks, but you no longer obey. It whispers, "You're not enough," and you smile because you know it's lying. It says you'll fail, and you nod because maybe you will, but failure is no longer your enemy. It says you're unworthy of love, and you breathe because you know love isn't something you earn, it's something you are. That's when the real freedom begins. Freedom not from the world, but from yourself, or rather from the version of yourself that was never truly you. The self that was built on other people's expectations. The self that thought love had to be earned. The self that confused control with safety. That self was never real, it was armor. And now it's falling away. And as it does, the world begins to change. Not because it's different, but because you are. You start to see beauty where you once saw lack. You start to see possibility where you once saw failure. You start to see yourself not as broken, but as becoming. And the more you accept your own shadow, the more you understand others. You stop needing to fix people because you see that everyone is fighting the same invisible war. The war between who they are and who they think they're supposed to be. And when you've made peace with your own darkness, you stop being afraid of theirs. You become safe not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And that realness becomes your power. Because authenticity is not about being flawless, it's about being whole. And a whole person is unshakable because they no longer live at war with themselves. They don't need to win every battle. They don't need to control every outcome. They've learned the ultimate truth. Peace is not found in victory. It's found in surrender. Not the surrender of weakness, but of trust. Trust that you can handle whatever comes. Trust that you are worthy of joy even in imperfection. Trust that the parts of you that once terrified you are the same parts that will one day set you free. And when you reach that point, you no longer need to chase healing because you've become it. You've become the medicine your younger self was waiting for. You've become the love your shadow needed to rest. And in that moment, in that quiet, infinite moment, the part of you that hated yourself will finally exhale, because it will realize that it was never your enemy. It was your beginning. And when that part of you finally exhales, when the inner critic that once ruled your thoughts begins to quiet, there is a silence unlike anything you've ever felt before. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of presence. The stillness that comes when every inner voice stops fighting for control, and you realize there is nothing left to prove. That silence is where your real life begins. You start to notice things you never could before, not because the world changed, but because your perception finally cleared. You see beauty in ordinary moments. You see meaning in pain. You see love not as something to find, but something to recognize. You begin to experience life from the inside out. This is the rebirth. Jung spoke of the return of the self. The moment when the fragmented psyche gathers its lost pieces and says, "I am whole again." And yet, wholeness does not mean perfection. Wholeness means contradiction. It means holding both the darkness and the light, the weakness and the strength, the fear and the courage, and letting them coexist without shame. Because shame was the poison that kept you fragmented. Shame convinced you that certain parts of you were too ugly to love, too broken to show, too dangerous to feel. But when you look closer, you realize shame was never telling you the truth. Shame was just the prison guard of an outdated identity. It was protecting the illusion that safety comes from hiding. But hiding is not safety, it's slow suffocation. And when you finally open that door, when you walk out of that prison, blinking into the light, you will see what has always been true. There was never anything wrong with you. The world taught you to hate yourself so it could control you. Because a person at war with themselves will always seek peace outside of themselves, in consumption, in validation, in obedience. And that is how modern slavery works. You were never meant to love yourself in a world that profits from your insecurity. The system thrives on your doubt. It feeds on your fear. It keeps you buying, comparing, apologizing, hustling, because a self-loving human is a dangerous one. A self-loving human cannot be manipulated. They cannot be controlled by guilt, by fear, by scarcity. That's why facing your self-hatred isn't just healing, it's rebellion. To love yourself in a world that benefits from your self-loathing is a revolutionary act. Because self-love is not softness, it's sovereignty. It's the refusal to outsource your worth. It's the quiet declaration that no external force, no person, no institution, no ideology can define what you are. When you reach that point, you begin to understand the power that has always been yours. You realize that you can feel fear and still move forward. You can feel doubt and still act. You can feel pain and still love. Because emotions are not enemies, they are messengers. Each one comes to guide you back to yourself. Fear says, pay attention. Anger says, a boundary has been crossed. Sadness says, something needs to be released. Guilt says you're living against your values. How? But you were never taught to listen, you were taught to suppress. And suppressed emotions don't disappear. They grow roots in the subconscious. They become habits, addictions, perfectionism, overthinking. They run your life while you wonder why you keep repeating the same patterns. You keep falling for the same kind of people. You keep sabotaging the same kind of opportunities. You keep cycling between chaos and calm because your shadow is still calling for attention. Every destructive behavior in your life is a language, the language of unmet needs. Your self-hatred doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to be heard. And when you finally listen, when you give that part of you permission to exist without judgment, the war ends. That's when you stop being ruled by the past. Because you can't rewrite what happened to you, but you can rewire how it lives inside you. You can take the memory that once defined your pain and use it to define your purpose. You can take your shame and turn it into understanding. You can take your fear and turn it into discernment. You can take your wounds and turn them into wisdom. This is how you become free, not by escaping the darkness, but by absorbing its lessons. Because the truth is, your darkness is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It has been sculpting you, refining you, preparing you for something greater. And that something greater is not fame, not fortune, not perfection. It's consciousness, the ability to live awake, to live without running, to live without needing to hide from any part of yourself. When you reach that point, the things that once terrified, you will lose their power. Criticism will no longer sting because you no longer depend on approval. Rejection will no longer crush you because you no longer see it as proof of inadequacy. Failure will no longer define you because you no longer confuse mistakes with identity. You'll begin to understand what real freedom feels like, not the absence of obstacles, but the absence of self-betrayal. That's what the journey was always about. It was never about becoming more. It was about remembering who you already are. Because beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the self-hatred, there has always been a deeper self waiting. A self that knows. A self that never forgot your worth, even when you did. A self that watched you fight, struggle, and suffer, waiting for the moment you turn inward and finally see it. That self has always been there, patient, eternal, untouched by your shame. It doesn't need to be created. It only needs to be remembered. And when you remember it, everything changes. Because the moment you reconnect with that inner truth, you stop being a product of your past and start being a creator of your present. You stop identifying with your wounds and start identifying with your wisdom. You stop saying, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That shift from victimhood to authorship is the essence of awakening. It's when you stop being the character in your life story and start becoming the writer. You stop reacting to your pain and you begin transforming it into meaning. And meaning is what heals everything, because meaning turns suffering into purpose, and purpose turns wounds into light. That's how the part of you that hated yourself finally dies, not through punishment, but through purpose. It realizes that it was never meant to lead you. It was meant to guide you back home. And home is not a place. Home is this moment, the one where you finally stop trying to fix yourself and instead begin to know yourself. You are not broken. You are becoming. And the part of you that hated yourself, it was never evil. It was sacred misdirection, designed to push you toward awakening. It was the cocoon, the darkness before the wings. And now the cocoon is cracking. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet hum beneath your skin that says, "There's more to me than this." That's the sound of the real you, the one beneath the fear, beneath the guilt, beneath the masks waking up. And once that version of you awakens, you can never go back to sleep. And when that awakening finally happens, when you no longer run from the mirror of your own mind, something sacred unfolds. You realize that the part of you that once hated yourself was never a curse. It was the call to return, the call to remember, the call to reclaim the fragments of your soul that you scattered in exchange for belonging. That part, the self-hating, fearful, critical, obsessive part, was never your enemy. It was your initiation, the first gatekeeper between who you were told to be and who you truly are. You had to face it to be free. You had to descend into it, to ascend beyond it. Because in the end, enlightenment is not a journey upward, it is a journey inward. The treasure was never above you. It was buried beneath your pain, your shame, your silence. You had to lose yourself in order to meet yourself again. And when you do, when you truly do, you realize something profound. You are not two beings at war. You are one consciousness, vast and wild enough to contain both the darkness and the dawn. You are the storm and the calm that follows, the destruction and the rebirth, the question and the answer. You are not meant to live free from fear. You are meant to walk with it, to hold it by the hand and say, "I see you, but you don't lead anymore." You are not meant to live without the shadow. You are meant to dance with it, to learn its rhythm, to understand its language, to find its light. Because every time you make peace with a part of yourself, you reclaim power. Every time you forgive yourself for what you didn't know, you reclaim wisdom. Every time you choose self-acceptance over self-judgment, you reclaim freedom. And slowly, piece by piece, you rebuild the bridge back to your soul. You stop seeking outside of yourself for what was never missing inside. You stop measuring your worth in comparison to others, because you finally understand comparison is the language of self-rejection, and you begin to live differently. You wake up and no longer dread your reflection because you see not what's wrong, but what's real. You speak with honesty, not to please, but to live in truth. You love not to be saved, but to express what you already are. And when pain comes, as it always will, you don't collapse. You listen. You ask, "What is this here to teach me?" You move through the world with a calm that others mistake for mystery, but you know it's not mystery, it's mastery. The mastery of being at peace with your humanity. Because that's the final evolution, not to transcend your humanity, but to embrace it so completely that nothing within you feels foreign anymore. When you reach that point, you stop chasing happiness. You start embodying wholeness. And wholeness is not found in light alone, it's found in the harmony between light and dark. It's when your love and your anger no longer cancel each other out, but complete each other. It's when your fear no longer paralyzes you, but guides you. It's when your failures no longer define you, but refine you. You stop living as a reaction and start living as a revelation. You become the proof that it's possible to walk through the fire and not come out burned, but illuminated. To lose yourself and find something greater. To meet your shadow and uncover your soul. And one day, when the world tries to pull you back into its noise, the chaos, the comparison, the constant whisper of not enough, you'll smile. Because you'll know that voice doesn't belong to you anymore. You'll know that the part of you that once hated yourself has become your greatest ally. You'll feel it there, not gone, but transformed, no longer a wound, but wisdom. It will whisper to you now, but differently. You are enough. You always were. You always will be. And that voice, the same one that once led you into suffering, will now guide you into peace. Because you've done what few ever dare. You've made peace with your own darkness. And once you make peace with your darkness, no one can use it against you. You become untouchable, not because you are perfect, but because you are whole. You no longer need to hide, to prove, to perform, to chase. You have come home to yourself. And in that home, there is no more war, no more self-hate, no more waiting to be enough. There is only this, a quiet knowing, a sacred stillness, a love so deep that even your scars start to feel like art, because they are. Every scar, every shadow, every wound was the brushstroke that painted your becoming. And now you stand as the masterpiece, not flawless but divine, not fixed but free, not perfect but whole. And the part of you that once hated yourself, it bows, it rests, it thanks you, because its job is finally done. You have become what it was always trying to protect. You have become love itself.